Hi everyone, it's me, Lori from Inner Goddess Tarot, and today is March 3rd, and I see it's just starting to snow out the window. Oh, anyway, March 3rd, here we are, and we can almost believe that spring is coming even though it's starting to snow out there. So for today, I just wanted to talk about another way that you can do two things. So first of all, this is a way that you can get to know your deck better or get to know your decks better if you have a collection of them, and also a way to get to know a particular card in a more deep way, to get a little bit more insight out of the card. So what I like to do, for me, I'm really loyal to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That's my go-to deck that I use for most of my readings. But I have a shamelessly large collection of other decks that I also like to use sometimes for readings, sometimes for meditation, sometimes for practice, sometimes just to enjoy looking at the beautiful artwork. But so for me, I always, when I was learning, and even now, I always start with the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the card. But then if you compare that card to other versions of the card from other decks, then you can get some interesting insights into what's going on there, into the meaning of the card, and also get to know your decks a little bit better. So for example, and also it's a good idea to pick a card that kind of puzzles you, one that you maybe don't feel like you really resonate with, and see if this gives you a way to come to terms with the card, to understand it better. So for example, I chose the Justice card. So this is a Rider-Waite-Smith version of the card. I'm just going to put it up to the camera here. So this to me is the classic version of the card. We have Justice portrayed as a woman here. She's holding the scales, she's holding the balances in her hand there, and she's holding an upraised sword, so you can see that. And so what always strikes me about this card is the symbolism is really important with that upraised sword. That shows me she's concerned about the truth, she's concerned about being ethical, being straightforward. That sword is unwavering. And also the fact that she's not blindfolded. Sometimes we say justice is blind. Well, not this justice. She sees exactly what's going on. She sees clearly. So this card has a feeling of taking responsibility for your actions, equitable outcomes, things, like taking responsibility for what you've done, good or bad, right? But then when we look at another version of the card, let's see here. Okay, so this is from a really beautiful deck called the Fey Tarot. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Here's the box for it. The Fey Tarot. A lovely whimsical deck. So here is the Justice card from that deck. So we've got a really different image here. Again, I really like the idea that Justice is not blind here. Her eyes are blanked out there, but there's a feeling of this Justice being all-seeing rather than impartial and blind. And also you can see in this card, this figure is holding a feather between her hands there. And for me, that calls to mind the feather of Mat in Egyptian mythology. The idea that when you pass away, your soul is weighed against that feather. So it determines, if you're heavier than that feather, then you're not going to paradise. But if you're light as a feather, then your soul can go to paradise. So there's a feeling again of that judgment there, but it's judgment based on ethics and morality, not based on just some arbitrary law. We're talking more like spiritual universal law here. And then, okay, what else have I got? In the beautiful Goddess Tarot, here is the Justice card, and it's the Goddess Athena, who I have a particular affinity for many, many years. So we have Athena here, who is the goddess of wisdom and justice and law courts, that kind of thing. But we bring in the idea here of justice with wisdom. So again, not blind law, but the idea of what goes around comes around. Karma is coming into play here. So here we have wisdom and compassion combined with what's right. Let's see, what else can I show you? Okay, so this is a really unusual one. So this is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. I adore this deck. It is a beautiful, dark, moody deck. But I have to say the Justice card has never resonated with me in this deck. Here, you can have a look. But because this is a darker, more shadowy deck, this version of the Justice card brings out that feeling of arbitrary justice, you know, just following the letter of the law, not so concerned if the person deserves the punishment or not, but following law by the book. So this gives me a bit more of a shadowy feeling to it. So what happens when justice is not tempered with mercy or knowledge or wisdom? This idea of being subject to an arbitrary force. So I mean, it's valid to look at that because sometimes we do not get justice when we are in a legal situation or in a personal situation. So this card gives me the idea of that little bit of a shadow side. Okay, I'm talking too long here. I'll do one more. One more. Okay, so this is, again, the very soft and gentle Crystal Visions deck. So here we have Justice. And this is a much gentler, sort of fairy-looking creature. And she's still holding that sword, but it's not quite as firmly upright. She's holding the scales as well, but she's got her eyes closed. I don't know if you can see that. So this gives me the idea here a little bit more of that impartial justice, or also I get the feeling a little bit of mercy there too, because she's almost willing to turn away from small, what can I say? She's willing to turn away from some misdemeanors, some faults, and give you another chance, I feel like, with this card. And you can see she's standing right near a little river there too, so I get the feeling of flow and healing. So this is a much softer version than this very stern, my favorite Rider-Waite version there. So anyway, I think I should just cut it off there because if I start diving in to the rest of my collection, we will be here all day. So there, that's just a taster. So I recommend you doing that. And if you don't have a large collection of your own decks, you can look online. I love the site Eclectic Tarot, eclectic.net. They have pictures of hundreds or thousands of decks there, so you can take a look at different versions of a card just online and see what insights you can get from it. So thanks for listening. This was just a fun way that you can get to know your deck or decks, and also find a way to get to know each particular card a little bit more deeply, or maybe surprise yourself with the different insights that you get. Think about the card in a little bit different way. So please visit my website at innergoddesstarot.com and check out my tarot services, my custom tarot goods, jewelry, tarot bags, very tempting. So come and take a look. innergoddesstarot.com. Thanks. Bye.